So I'm going to be starting a school project here soon, and I've got to do some editing. How do you get into your mindset of editing?
What do I care about? Like, what does, not me, but if I was the person watching this who the video is intended for, do I actually care about that? And if no, then get rid of it. You know, we include a lot of context because we are too close to the product or whatever the video is about sometimes. So we know more than the end consumer. And if you're giving them stuff that they don't care about or need to know, then get rid of it.
Is there a certain amount of B-roll that you want to have before you start editing? Like where you feel comfortable, where it's like, okay, I know I have enough of like this extra footage that I can put in over any cuts or anything like that?
So it really depends on the project, but I would say it's always better to have more than less. And I think it depends on, you know, the end product. Is it going to be a 30-second thing? Is it going to be a 2-minute long, 5-minute long? Because most B-roll clips are only going to be played for like 3 seconds, 4 seconds at most. Otherwise, the clip just goes on way too long. So it's not going to be 100% B-roll per minute, right? And it's not going to be 100% people talking. It's maybe like a 70-30 split where like we see the people talking 30% of the time, then we see B-roll the other 70%. So I'm like, okay, maybe that's like 35 seconds of B-roll. For me, even though it's only going to be played for 3 to 4 seconds, you never know in the edit, you know, something might actually draw out longer, or you know, you wish that you held onto the shot a little bit more. So I would never go in and shoot a 3 or 4 second clip. I would shoot like a 10-second clip because that gives me padding on the front and the back in case like the good part's in the middle, right? Otherwise, if you shoot what you think like is exactly what you need, you often find that you don't have enough.
When I think of editing, I think of the most difficult part being time consumption. Just because like, you know, you have this video and now you have to sit down for however long and, you know, really take the time to make sure you get it to where you want it. What would you say is the most difficult part of editing?
I mean, the most difficult part about editing is time consumption only if you are trying to actually like grow and scale like a business or what you're doing, because it's taking you away from higher earning potential. But if you just look at editing and like you have to edit, I would say it's getting out of the art of like, you know, I want it to be this way. And we kind of talked about this in other stuff versus like what is right for the client or the end consumer. People like will look and see YouTubers making cool stuff and they think mine has to look like that to make money. No, look at what actually makes air. None of that is making air, right? So do you want to be cool, you know, online, or do you want to make money?
What is your favorite part of editing? Like, what you find most enjoyable when it comes to editing?
My favorite part is showing it to a person, typically my wife, right? I don't really edit anymore, but I would show her something, and you know, that if we work on a piece that's emotional, she watches it and then I look over and I see her crying. I'm like, oh, you know, I've made something that's moved somebody, you know, and so that was like pretty cool. And so if you can actually draw the emotion that you were hoping to from a person, that is like the best feeling.
Do you have a preference when it comes to editing? Would you rather do like video or would you rather do like audio, like of the two?
If you're doing something where nobody's speaking ever, right? Sound effects can just kind of help add to the feel of the video, right? If people are speaking and it's not like a TV show or a movie, right? Like Stranger Things, you want to hear all those sound effects, that's cool. I work in the corporate video space, like nobody wants to hear that. That's distracting for them. They just want to hear the voice. So for me, like I think I've used Adobe Audition like 3 times. As a videographer, you can do sound, you can do graphics, you can do audio, you can do all that color in Premiere. Like I don't look at audio as like something that I would just do unless I was solely a sound operator. All of our editing like never goes to a sound person unless there was something that was wrong with the audio because of like the location. It's not really a video or audio choice.
People like me who are in school for this kind of stuff, who are in school for filming or videography or whatever, what is like some advice that you would give them if they are looking to do what you do?
If I'm in school and you want to do what I do, I would tell you to walk out of classroom and never go back. I've hired quite a few people from film school that don't know the simplest things that you would actually like need to know day one of being on your first set ever, even in the lowest, like one of the lowest paid positions, right? They don't know how to wrap a cable. They don't know how to open a C-stand. They don't know anything about C-stand safety. And so for me, it's like, well, what did you learn? With a week on YouTube, you can learn everything you need to know. And so that's, I guess, where my biggest issue is where everything, all the information is free. It's, you're not a doctor, you're not a lawyer, you don't have to have certifications, right? You don't have to study all these crazy things, because if you can frame it correctly, if you can put a key light in the right place for a sit-down interview, and the scene for when somebody's talking looks good, and then if you can shoot B-roll that is visually appealing, so like you don't have to have anything fancy. I typically just put something in the foreground, and then the subject that I'm shooting, and that subject is hopefully off of the wall or off of whatever the background is. So that way now my scene has depth, right? So there's a foreground thing that's out of focus, the subject is in focus, the background's far away. So now like there's layers to the image. If you can do those things, then you can go out and start charging 5 or 10 grand for projects like in a month. If I am a person that wants to do video for businesses, I would never go to a film school. I would watch YouTube and just try to do all that stuff for a few weeks. And then I would just go out and try to do free videos for small businesses and just get practice in.
For someone that does want to do what you do, and even if they're like not coming out of college per se, but like they want to get into what you do, where should they start? And like how do you go from like approaching a small business saying like, hey, let me do something like that for free, into making money?
What you'll find is that giving something away for free is sometimes harder than getting somebody to buy something. It's the analogy of, if I'm going to buy a car that I don't want to break down on me, I know that I have to spend 15 grand or more, right, to have something that doesn't have like super high miles that I think is going to be reliable. And if I go to your shop and then you try to sell me a $2,000 car, I'm like, that thing's going to break down like this month. Like there's no way I'm spending that. And then if you don't know that I'm saying no to you because the price is way too low, and you think, oh, I asked too much. Well, that is the ladder that is being built, that is being placed in front of you in your mind, because you're like, they said no, I shouldn't have asked for that much. It's like, no, you tried to deliver the wrong solution for their problem, or you just asked too little. A business typically will never tell you, oh, you're way too cheap. Like they'll just say, oh, we chose somebody else. You think that you're too expensive. They think you're too cheap. A ladder's now built, and now you start talking to more of the wrong people. And then now you get stuck in this like bad client deal. And I don't know if you've ever seen like these memes where, $1,000 project, the person that's paying you wants like 10 revisions. They're overseeing everything like a hawk. It's a pain. And then the person that's giving you 100,000, they're like, cool, check sent, thanks. Because the person that thinks $1,000 is a lot of money is going to treat it like it's a lot of money, and they're going to want to oversee it, versus you work with a company, anybody that's paying you, that has a lot of resources available, they're like, cool, like go do it. Like that's not a lot to us.
Obviously, nowadays you probably have more people reaching out to you and offering you or like asking like, hey, can you do this for us? But before, when you were like kind of trying to find your way, how did you like approach people and say like, hey, I'll do this for you? And how did you get comfortable asking for set amount of money?
What I started doing, because I used to travel with sports broadcast, right? I would say, hey, I hope after everything, they were happy and everything was delivered, hope you enjoyed the process. I don't know if you do these types of shoots very often, but we travel for our clients a lot of times because instead of you having to find me or somebody like me in each different place that you're shooting, and then having to vet them and then onboard them to your accounts payable and all that, you could. It is not too much more just for us to go out there, right? And so like what I would do is now that they know that like. They might have known that that was an option, but they might not have like ever truly thought about it. But now that you've planted that seed is like, oh, actually, yeah, I spend, we do one of these every month or two of these every month. And then I have to post and then I have to go through different emails. I have to go through different, pieces of work to see if they're good enough. Then yeah, I have to go through the paperwork and put them through HR. And yeah, I mean, the amount of time that would save versus you charging us like $2,000 on top of this project for travel, like that actually sounds like a better deal. And I was like, well, yeah. And also, if you think about it, you already know what you're gonna get. And so instead of you having to go through like, here's examples of what we've done in the past, and you hoping that they get it right, like you just know it's gonna be done right the first time. Where I've actually been able to leverage that is once I've gone in and now they start traveling me for all these different projects, now they're like, well, I wouldn't want to do anything else, right? And then you can slowly start to increase the budget with them. And again, that goes back to creatives not thinking business minded. They think creatively, but not in the right way, right? Because I'm thinking creatively in the, hey, how can I extend this relationship? And it's actually solving two problems. It's putting more money in my pocket and it's making their life easier.
And then the other part was just like, how do you build up the confidence in being able to like ask for a certain amount?
I think it was a YouTube because I never really read. I just can't pay attention, right? So I've read a few books and they were mainly like the story of an entrepreneur, but it was just something on YouTube where it's tough. You say the number that scares you, that you've never said, and then you say, is that doable? And you shut up and you never speak again. And typically it happens via email. It's almost never face-to-face. But regardless, it works either way. So I remember like I had done a video very early on for like 500, and there was a project. I was like, oh, this kind of seems like it should be a lot. And I was like, I want to say 5,000. But I don't because I really want this, and I think they'll do like they'd say yes for 2,000, right? And I said, and I had just learned this technique because I was trying to figure out like how to sell because I didn't know how to sell, and so I said, it'll be $5,000. Is that doable? And it was in an email, so it was much easier. But I was still like crapping my pants because I'm like, I want this, but this might ruin it, and yeah, that's totally fine. And so once you hear somebody accept the $5,000 is now my new just like standard. Everything in life is literally dictated by stuff you're making up in your head.
Okay.
Because it's just you're choosing to have a preconceived notion about something that isn't true. Like, do you think it's possible to make $1 million a month?
I think it is possible.
Are there people that make $1 million a month?
Yeah.
Could you make $1 million a month right now?
If I put my mind to it, yeah, sure.
So most people, if I didn't frame it where like, are there people that make $1 million a month? And I just said, my first question to you, can you make $1 million a month right now? You might not have gone into that, yeah, I'll figure it out, right? You might have just been like, no, right? But if you look and you like whatever excuse you come up with and you look at somebody else that's doing it,
That's exactly what I did, yeah.
and so like the person that got their legs blown off and now they have the prosthetics that kind of allow you to run, and now they're running the dash. It's like, oh, cool. That person could have either chosen to let the limiting belief that they'll never run again stop them from being an Olympian.
Right.
And so everything is just us putting a false sense that we can't do something on ourselves. And that makes us feel better about not achieving that goal.
So that's why because I remember you talking about how, like when we were filming over there, just like you realized someone else was making this much and you were making this much and you could have been making that much. So that's when you like decided like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this on my own. Was that kind of like your moment of like, yeah, no, I'm gonna get out of what I'm in right now?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, because like I was working in sports broadcast, right? Like, and I think we talked about like I don't love sports. Like I love the Chiefs, right? I'm not a diehard. I know everything about every player, right? I don't know. I've shot the NFL for a decade. I don't. If you ask me all the different positions on the field, I had fucking no clue.
All right.
And if you were to tell somebody that you can be a camera operator for the NFL for 10 years and not know anything about football, here I am. CBS calls me every year. Go and do all these shows, right? I've just worked for all of them. It doesn't matter because I get what they want. I do, at the end of the day, the job that they're hiring me for. Me, I'm always going to chase after, because it's who I am, the thing that I think is going to move me in the direction that I want to go. And I knew that even if I worked every single day in sports broadcast and I was hired on every single show, I worked 365 days a year, I was capped at what I could make. I would never be able to make more than that because they are only willing to pay so much for that position, right? Mm-hmm. And so I never wanted somebody to be able to put a cap on my earning potential. And that's where like most people need to look at how are they leveraging their time? What are the, what's the biggest lever they can pull? So, because it's like takes the least amount of effort to make the most amount of money. Sports broadcast, maybe you make $500-600 nowadays, maybe $700 a day. And like I don't want to get off the couch for $3K for a day. And so it's like, well, if you look at that person, again, they love what they do, love it. That's what's right for them. But I'm earning more in 1 week than they might, or in 1 day than they might in a week. And so, yeah, I've always just tried to find the biggest lever that I can pull with my time. And every day that goes by, I realize like I can do less and less and less if I am smarter about what I'm doing and leveraging other people's time.
That's pretty much all I got. Do you have anything that you want to touch on?
No, that's good. I got a meeting in 19 minutes anyway. Oh, I wasn't recording.